Welcome to Week in Horror.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
The podcast that deep dives all the films you love.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
The week they dropped in horror history.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
With your horror hosts, JL.
When a shirtless Sam Elliott with no mustache takes out an alligator with an oar, that's the kind of movie I'm looking for.
Eugene.
And we're just casually just like, yeah, so this is probably the best way to go, light someone on fire with gasoline.
Alex.
It would not be an original lineup if I didn't have fucking technical difficulty.
Johnny O.
Now, it's not in Amityville, or wherever, it's Amityville.
And Aaron.
They got manure to work with and nothing grew from it.
News, trailers, trivia, special guests, and more.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Live show every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central at youtube.com/weekinhorror.
Welcome to prime time, bitch!
And wherever you listen to podcasts.
One by one, we will take you.
Week in Horror. Stay scared.
Welcome, horror fans. It's Wednesday, 7 p.m. time. That means it's time for another episode of the Weekend Horror Podcast, grooviest podcast this side of Candaria. And if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast host, you can join us here on YouTube for our live show so you too can get on bloody fun. What are you waiting for? Join us. This week, we're covering select horror films released August 14th through August 20th. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm Aaron, and with me tonight are JL and very soon, Alex.
How's it going? All right, good times. Yes, hopefully Alex will be along here shortly. He messaged me and said that apparently traffic was terrible. So he said, I'm coming in hot, so hopefully he will pop in and we'll get him added in. Oh, it has been a busy week. Oh, speak of the devil and he appears. Bam.
Hello.
The devil's looking unimpressive this week.
You want to say hi? Oh, now we can't hear him. Yeah, that was, I saw a what the fuck mouth there, but I didn't hear it.
What the fuck eyes there.
You see, we were talking earlier about body language, how you can pretty much just indicate by the expressions how you can understand what people are saying. All right, well, Aaron, while Alex is getting his audio sorted, let's say hi to who we've got in the live chat tonight. It's going to be an awesome night tonight. I think we have some great films that we're going to talk about and some cool stuff. What is this? I'm not muted.
That's for him.
Hello. Welcome to...
Are you good?
Good.
I don't know, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
That's unfortunate. How y'all doing?
All right, let's say hi to who we have in the live chat tonight. Starting up first, we got Mr. Malort, all the way from Chicago, but technically not Chicago. Says he was first, and today he's in sunny Mexico, Playa del Carmen. How did Bone Tomahawk go overlooked by me for so long? I don't know, but a very cool Kurt Russell film about bad Indians. So, or bad Native Americans, cannibalistic Native Americans, but an awesome freaking movie and super violent. You typically wouldn't expect that, out of a Kurt Russell film, but a really, really good one. Travis Brown's in the house. Good to see you, Travis Brown, one of our amazing supporters. Speaking of which, let's get the banner up there. Bam! There's all of our amazing patrons scrolling by down at the bottom. All the individuals that help us to make this show the amazing podcast that it kind of is. Raven Darkstar, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Do appreciate you hanging out with us. And I see Angel Rivera as well. Good to see you. Thanks so much for being here. Nemo813, good to see you. Thanks so much. Says, hey, everyone. Hey. And iHeart Dogs. Good to see you, iHeart Dogs. Says, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out. And Nurse Donnie Dawn is here. Donnie Dawn's in the house. Thank you so much for hanging out. We do appreciate you. Wrote in no last name, Gabba Gabba, sir. It says, starting the late pool, I'm guessing 6 minutes. Ha ha! It was only 3. Gotcha! Sorry to spoil there. But good to see you. Thanks so much for hanging out, Wrote in no last name. And I see, Crafty Keela's in the lurk mode. Good to see you, Crafty.
Hey.
One of our biggest supporters from all the way back at the very beginning.
Been a long time.
Crafty's amazing. And we hope the little one is doing well. I hope mom and little one are doing well out there. So take care of yourself. But so good to see you. McKinnon Mitchell says, finally made it on time to this one. Fan-fucking-tastic.
I did.
McKinnon is a duet.
I said I didn't. Don't worry.
You beat Alex, but I mean, that's not really saying much, you know.
Wow. Wow.
Good to see you, McKinnon. Thanks so much for hanging out, bud. Do appreciate it. I don't think it's buffering. I don't think we're having a buffering issue. Maybe not. They may have been back towards the start, but we'll see. Let me know if there is a buffering issue, if anything. Let me see who else. Crafty Keela says, I didn't realize Garage Doors did live streams, because you were Garage Door there for a minute. Garage Door, there you are. Garage Door. Sally Skellington is here. Good to see you, Sally. And the plot hoe as well says, you all are muted. We weren't. Well, we were, I mean, during the intro. Bitch. Greg Meters in the house. Good to see you, Greg Meters says, good evening, gentlemen. I am watching live from Louisville, Kentucky. Good to see you, Richard. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. I think this is Richard's first show. Do appreciate you being here. Donnie Does That's here as well. Says, hey, everybody. Good to see you, Donnie. And Charlie Welch, the only man on the internet you never make a bet with. Good to see you. Charlie Welch says, hey, you bastards. Good to see you, you fucking cunt.
Damn.
McKinnon Mitchell says, Bone Tomahawk was a fucking amazing movie with a death that you will never unsee. This is true.
No.
I'll haunt you for the rest of your natural life.
It ranks up there with The Woman.
Oh, yeah.
With Lucky McKee's The Woman. There was a couple in there that I can't unsee. That just...
I'm going to take a commercial break here.
All right. And I see Clairview is in the house. Good to see you, Clairview. Thanks so much for being here. Rodent says, Alex was 6 minutes late, so I win.
Fair enough.
But the show wasn't. Tony Regime says, what the fuck was that accent meant to be? When I said, fuck you cunt.
That was JL drunk off of Jameson trying to fit in.
Pretty much, yeah. That was me drunk in an Irish bar trying to fit in.
It was Braveheart if Keanu Reeves had been the main star.
It's a good one.
Oh, Braveheart starring Keanu Reeves. That was great. All right.
You can never take my freedom.
McKinnovich says the accent was an Irish Adam Sandler.
Okay. All right.
Crafty Killer says, agreed. Says, I don't know whether to be insulted or amused.
Yes.
I fucked it up. I'm sorry. I was excited and I was happy, and I got loose with my accents. So I think I combined like 3 in that. But anyhow, so before we get started tonight, a couple of things that we're going to take. Hey, Ida Pimp Yuta Hose here. Good to see you. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it. First and foremost, it recently came out. This is the Wednesday the 10th, but this is going to go live on Sundays. But then again, if you haven't seen it, you're probably under a rock somewhere. But obviously, the new Prey film came out, the new Predator film on Hulu. I recently got a chance to watch both versions of it because for those who may not be in the know or don't have Hulu, the new Predator film has 2 modes that you can watch it in. It has a Comanche dub and it has an English, the normal English. So, but I loved the Comanche dub, but I wanted to see, have you guys got an opportunity to see it yet?
Yeah, I watched it, Sunday night? And it was
Awesome.
Badass. Especially after the shitty movie I had to watch right before.
What about you,
It was
Matt?
a little bit lighter than Tomahawk. Great. It was great.
Yeah, I'm picky about the whole Alien and Predator series and everything because back in the day, my friends were into that stuff when the books were popular, and I talked with JL a little bit about that. It's spoilerific what we were talking about, someone go into it, but we talked about, the Atari Jaguar game, and just, it was everywhere, so I'm kind of picky about it. And some of the movies, they've taken elements I wanted to see in a movie and, the blooding at the end of AUP, but beyond that, they've been disappointing. But the last couple, including this one, have been absolutely badass. They're just getting better and better, and hopefully they can keep from screwing that up.
Fingers crossed. I really, really love this one. The attention to detail, the little throwbacks to the original, and the little throwbacks just to like the thematic elements of the Predator franchise. I just the little. It was a very, very. This one was done by someone who truly. Prey was directed by someone who truly appreciates the franchise and everything that everybody has contributed to it. From Predator, Predator 2, Predators, the Shane Black's The Predator, of course the AVP series, everything, but little details that were great. Fantastic acting across the board, and if you really, really want like an authentic experience, because I thought this was absolutely cool. Prey is the first time an entire American film has been shot with in the Comanche language, in the original Comanche language, which was apparently a huge challenge to undertake. Originally, the script itself was supposed to be fully in Comanche with no English version, and so apparently the director got the script, and on the title page of the script it was like Prey Comanche language only. No English whatsoever. So it'd be Comanche and French, because there were French-Canadian trappers that show up in the film. And the director loved it. He's like, this is brilliant. But somewhere along the line, up at the studio level, there was a merger, and they wound up shooting the film in English. Fortunately, the director was smart and kept everybody, all of the native speakers together, and managed to and cranked out a complete Comanche dub of the film. And what's really badass is that if you watch the Comanche dub and you throw the subtitles on so you can understand what's being said, the only thing that's subtitled is the Comanche language. All of the French stuff is not subtitled, because the Comanche typically wouldn't have known what the French trappers were saying. Unless, there was... and they make a point of that, because when the French trapper who speaks Comanche speaks to... what's her name? Naya? No, wait, what's it? Naru speaks to Naru. When the French trapper speaks to Naru, and speaks her language, then it's subtitled in English. Then you can understand what's going on. So it's brilliantly done. Nice, excellent fight scenes. A fantastic finishing fight. Climax fight. I don't want to spoil too much, but the fucking movie was amazing. McKinnon Mitchell says, I don't care what anyone says. I'll fight people over the fact that I say Prey is better than the original Predator. Both are masterpieces, but Prey is just a smidge higher for me.
It's so hard because the original is so good, and it's so,
Right.
it's like it's there, but then you get this, which was, like you said, done so well in a way that, like, because I watched the dub version, and it was like, why aren't they subtitling? It took me almost halfway through to be like, it's because they don't fucking understand what they're... I was like, that's cool. That's like, that'll fuck you up, because it's like, wait, why aren't they... What do they say? They don't know what they're saying, so we don't know what they're saying.
So we don't know. Yeah, it personalizes the experience.
Yeah, it was good.
I think we can always be grateful the original Predator didn't have Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah.
But although it was cool that Predators paid homage to the original monster that they were intending to put in the Predator film. Because the fast-running insect-looking thing, they decided to throw that in there as kind of like a red herring. And so I kind of dug that. That was kind of neat. Facty's here. Good to see you, Facty. Thanks so much for hanging out. Says, good and memoed. Well, I hope you hang out. We hope we can entertain. Gosh of Heckfire here is here as well. Says, hello there, you bunch of sillies. Hello there, Mr. Gosh of Heckfire. Good to see you. And let me see here. What else? And I saw McKinnon said something else. McKinnon said, I love how they made this Predator look more like the original design when Van Damme was going to be the creature in the first Predator movie. They made it look great. I thought it was fantastic. Really, really cool. So, Naru, that's right. Her name was Naru. I didn't spoil too much in this movie. I didn't spoil much of anything.
I killed it before spoilers.
Yeah, there were no spoilers.
The good guys win.
Crafty says, sounds like Crafty Keelan says, sounds like way too much concentration is needed for this thing.
Oh yeah, she's got a new baby in the house. Forget that. You've got like 18 years before you're allowed to concentrate again.
Hey, you're sleeping. Cool. Turn it on.
Tony Regime says, I imagine Jail's accent had the same effect on you as Dick Van Dyke's accent in Mary Poppins has on the English. Ouch. Ow.
Dick Van Dyke didn't have an accent. It wasn't like any accent anybody anywhere had.
Oh, Crafty says, now you're being too kind. I had flashbacks of Brad Pitt in Devil's Own. That's hilarious. All right. Well, if you haven't checked out Prey, it is currently available. It is on Hulu, and I strongly recommend. I think we all strongly recommend you watch the Comanche dub for the full effect of the movie. So really, really fantastic shit. Definitely don't miss it. So next thing we have up on the agenda before we dive into tonight's films is we are doing the Bloodbath coin toss tonight. So the Bloodbath, the last debate was between Angela and Eugene, and if you haven't caught it. That's currently up. It went up for our patrons at the top of the month, and of course it'll be coming out to our Anchor subscribers or our podcast subscribers at the beginning of next month. But Angela took that in an amazing victory, and she's moving on to her next opponent, which is going to be freaking Johnny O. Johnny O is going to be taking on Angela.
Oh, this is going to be great.
And so, if I remember correctly. Damn it, where did it go? Did I not write down who they were? No, I did write down, didn't I?
No, one's your wife, and one is one of the podcasts.
I know who they are.
Oh, okay.
I just want to double check and make sure. All right, so... Yes, just double check and make sure I got it, because I got so many of these cooked up in my head. This upcoming month, the one that we're going to send out the invites to our patrons for, is Norman Bates versus Annie Wilkes. So Norman Bates from Psycho versus Annie Wilkes from Misery. Who is the worst?
Norma Bates, because Norman's a pussycat. Norma is the one that comes out and slaughters
Norman
everybody.
Bates versus his mother.
So yes, it is Norman Bates versus Annie Wilkes from Misery, and we are going to flip and see who decides to get who. And I'm pretty sure that Angela wanted Annie Wilkes, but I will be proxying for Angela, and I will call. So as we've always decided, this one the Texas is heads, and the Text Nightmare Weekend on the back is tails. So that's heads and tails. So here we go. Go back up a little bit. And, Alex is here. No, tails. Tails.
How long before Johnny calls you a cheater in the chat?
Never fails.
Tails.
All right. So Angela has got pick. Angela's going to be, Angela's got Annie Wilkes from Misery, and Johnny will have Norman Bates from Psycho. This is going to be really, really good. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah, did you look at the chat?
Let me see here. Annie Wilkes, not even a challenge. LOL from McKinnon Mitchell. Let me see. Dib says, damn. Travis Brown says, 2 demented killers. Damn sure. I Heart Dog says, Annie Wilkes for sure. Plothole says, fix. Already a fix. Nope, sorry. He's calling in the fix. Oh, thank you. I Heart Dog says, a great matchup. Yep. Let's see who's going to take who. So let me write those down. Angela's got Misery, and Johnny's got Psycho. Fantastic. All right, Norman Bates versus Annie Wilkes. That's going to be good. Okay, so... What was it? Ronan L's name says, the Week in Horror Challenge coin. Whomever doesn't present a coin dies a horrific death. I got mine.
Yeah. Well, I can...
All right, so... Before, Plothole, your mom's a psycho. Cooking that one up long. So before we dive in tonight, just let me know. Who's afraid of heights? Like, who is legitimately afraid of heights?
I'm afraid of man-made structures at height.
Put a 1 in the chat if you are, I'm not talking like, I'm standing on my roof. I'm talking like legit afraid of heights. So put a 1 in the chat if you are afraid of heights. And the reason I asked this question is because a new trailer came out.
Yeah. So okay.
And we're gonna watch it.
I haven't seen the trailer, but when I went to go see Jurassic Park in the theater, I saw a poster for it, and the poster made me queasy. It was like, I'm not afraid of heights. I'm afraid of falling, and that's like, it's like.
Well, you're wrong, Crafty. It's been 19 minutes and 34 seconds. So there. Okay, so before we dive in, Charlie Wood says, I fear fucking nothing. Nothing! Got some people who are afraid of heights this well. I hope this isn't too much. I wanted to just trigger warning in advance. Let's check out the trailer for Fall.
Yep.
A horrible thing happened to you. I just want you to be able to move on with your life.
Come here. It's coming up on a year. I have something that's planned, and I need a partner in crime. The B67 TV tower.
I haven't climbed since...
Becky, if you don't confront your fears, you are always going to be afraid.
Let's do it. Let's climb your stupid tower.
I'm so excited! Hey, guys! Hi!
Which mom said.
I was really ripped.
You're awesome! That is the Becky that we need for this trip. This is sick.
Damn it, Hunter. What are you getting us into?
You got me fucked up, Miss.
Okay, so just stay behind me, one rung at a time. See? It's easy. You're doing great. Becky, you gotta come up here.
Don't like ease into it or anything. You know, I ain't struck.
Hey, trust me. What was that? Oh my god! Oh my god!
Fuck.
The secondary anchors are moving.
Hunter, how do we get down? I don't have a signal.
Our water is down there in that bag. We have
Tree
50 feet of
climber.
rope. I think I could drop myself lower. Okay, I'm gonna jump onto the bag. Hunter, no! Hunter!
Every hour that passes, the weaker we get. If anyone called 911, they'd be here by now.
What is it that Dan used to say?
If you're scared of dying, don't be afraid to live.
Nope, already ruined for me.
Why?
Because I know how they get down. They're unless they make a really, really good excuse in the movie, there's a way you can get down from something like that. It's just it's a tree climber's wrap. You put it around your waist, put it around the pole, and go down.
Oh, that's possible. From my understanding,
I
the
fear
way
nothing.
from what I understand, the way that the only way to get down from there, if something like that would happen, I was talking to someone about it, was that is you need a helicopter to airlift you out.
Yeah, that's the big thing too. Is I'm like, why wouldn't you take her out and we'll be like, we'll do an elevator today. No, we're gonna go out into a shitty antenna in the middle of nowhere and go all the way up it right fucking now.
It's like just go to REI. Do some fake rock climbing. No. Right out the gate. You've been off for a year. Let's go climb a 2,000-foot tower. Fuck off. Yeah. So that one got me. There were some moments in there because once it gets to a certain point, I am afraid of heights. I do okay on planes, but it's when turbulence hits, and I kind of seize up a little bit. It's like, but yeah, that one you gotta be fucked up. Just.
It used to be legit. Like I could not go up to a second story and look out the window down without getting lightheaded, and I did encounter therapy, and slowly but surely worked up till I was decent, and then doing maintenance. Like the stupidest situation I've been in was 36 feet up on a lift that was like blowing back and forth in the wind, like swaying a foot back and forth just to get a picture, and I'm like, son of a bitch won't stay still. How am I supposed to get the picture? Never mind, not dying.
Oh, let's see. I Heart Dog says, I'll stay afraid, thanks. Travis Brown says, I think I'm falling asleep after seeing this trailer. Craft Tequila says, I want to climb it. Yeah, you and you alone, my dear, you and you alone. Richard Meter says, you can tell Alexa flip a coin. That's true, if I had an Alexa. But I don't want the CIA listening in my house. So, that being said, Mr. Malort says the horizon stays at eye level. Mr. Malort. I Heart Dog says, now this is horror. Yeah, that's a horror movie too. It's like legit. Don't need any supernatural shit. Don't need monsters. Don't need nothing. Don't need serial killers or anything crazy. You just need fucking really, really high places. Like scary high places. Let me see. Kenan Mitchell says, that's a smart use for the story. This is an easy climb for them, so making this a path of overcoming trauma is smart. I hope that they lean into that hard. Any idea can work with the right script. This is true. If it's well written and well paced, and this one will be really sold on the editing and the cinematography, but it looks amazing from the trailer. And yes, I will watch it, and I'll probably cringe all the way through it. But yeah, that one looks like it's gonna get me. Sally Skeleton says, yep. And Plothole says, snore. And Plothole says, weekend horror. A helicopter, you say? You spit me right round, baby. He's talking about the old lady. Alex, did you ever see it? The old lady rescue?
No.
Where she was being care flighted out of the You gotta watch that video when it's set to the Interstellar music.
Okay.
Like the epic, like the rotations. We're docking. It's impossible. No, it's necessary. Done. Shit is fucking great. Let me see. Sally Skeleton says, nope, we climb trees like that. You get down the same way.
You're going to hook up on framework. That's the problem with your theory on just shimming down. There's framework, there's big bolts, there's metal that's going to cut your rope. Like, it's doable, but it's just as dangerous as any
You'd have to go slow and be careful, but I mean... I would rather fall and die than starve to death on top of a tower.
I'd rather starve at the top of the tower. The sensation of
but
falling.
Look at you and look at me. You got days before you starve to death. I've got 2 meals.
See? That's how you do it. That's how you survive. Like, I've plenty to go. The problem is water. So, let me see here. Gosh Effect Fire says, my balls are now in my stomach. That's a no for me. And let me see. Yep, hot desert metal. That's also problematic. So yeah.
You got Nemo making a good point there. If only there were base jumpers as well as climbers. If you're ever going up that high, just bring a fucking parachute.
Just bring a base chute. Yep. All right, so that one's a freaky trailer that I wanted to share with everybody because it freaked me the fuck out, and I know there's some people that are afraid of heights, so I hope you enjoy that one. I will be checking out. It comes out, obviously, this is the 10th. It comes out this Friday, and I'll probably end up talking about it on a future episode. So, oof, that one got me. So, bam. But that's pretty much it. That's what we got. That was the cool stuff that I had that we wanted to talk about before we dive in.
All right. I'm playing host. Alex, what do we have up first?
We're going to kick it off with something just ultimately fucked up. I guess we can just say it's pretty fucked up. We're going to go with Grace. This came out August 14th, 2009. Roll it.
I'm going to see a midwife.
There's a reason people have babies in hospitals.
We're just checking it out.
Anybody breaks out of power crystal, we're leaving.
Tia, keep the focus on you and your baby.
It's beautiful.
The less this place looks like a hospital, the better.
Michael! Maybe you should just pull over.
Where?
Please. She isn't moving.
Baby's descended. You're doing great, Madeline.
After the accident, she told us the baby was dead.
Stay. Madeline, you can't will a baby back to life.
It's Grace. Her name is Grace. The stars in heaven, tucked in the sun, and each little flower knows this day is done.
Madeline, I know that you do not want to take her to the hospital, but there are some tests that can help us understand.
We're not a case study. Please, honey.
baby is sick.
You don't understand. She's special. She needs special food.
Vivian?
God, Madeline, you look terrible.
Madeline? I'm just feeding the baby.
And let's get into this one. Directed by Paul Solet, maybe Paul Soleil, written by the same. This movie stars Jordan Ladd, Samantha Ferris, Gabrielle Rose, Stephen Park, Sergey Howard, Kate Harriet. So this movie is going to follow a mother who, as you saw, lost her unborn child. She insisted on carrying the baby to term. She delivered the child, and then the child miraculously comes back to life, except comes back in a very horrific, undead way, craving human blood. And then the mother, being the mother of a good mother of a child, went and did everything she could to keep this child alive, which included a lot of really fucking horrific things. So it goes off. It goes off. This movie goes off.
Tony Regime says that kid's diapers are going to smell real funky. It gets there. It kind of gets in there, and yeah. So wow, oof. This one obviously will hit. Obviously, Crafty Keela is like, this one is one that hits pretty hardcore. The one thing I appreciate, because this film was originally based on a short film, and the short film was utilized was used to get funding for the major film, and this one obviously is an interesting spin, kind of a twist on the undead genre, and that's what and Rhoda No Less Name says talk about teething problems. Oh, they do. That's addressed towards the end of the movie, but nonetheless. This was an intriguing one. Obviously, there's the extreme nature of the film. Obviously, the child is undead, it's feeding on human blood, and eventually then human flesh. The kicker on this one is the maternal instincts, is the maternal aspect of the film. This is one thing I wanted to get your guys' opinion on. Obviously, the live chat as well. This is a major twist on the undead genre, because the undead genre is typically... We look at it as a metaphor for things about humanity, predominantly consumerism or conformity. Is that everybody's the same, walking around zombified, we're not in control of our actions, we're just reacting to stimuli. George Romero did it best with, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. We're all pretty much driven by one collective kind of thing, and we all just go try to feed and consume, and that's what we do. So there's always a commentary there. The difference is, in order to kind of liven up the undead genre, is people typically will tend to try to put twists on it. Is that they'll introduce other aspects, kind of like Contracted, where there was the aspect of the STD, and that was about women's empowerment, women's sexual liberation, and then of course a movie like Thanatomorphose, where Thanatomorphose was domestic violence and the denigration and the re-empowerment of women in the face of extreme violence, especially from a loved one. This one, and yes, it definitely, Tony Regime, definitely like Pet Sematary in the sense. And the kicker thing on this one is that it takes the trope of maternalism and makes it into a horror trope. But that's a thing that we've talked about before. Do you remember that, Alex? We've spoken at length before about how aspects of feminism, well, not like the feminist ideology, but feminism, just aspects of the female body, or the female reproductive cycle, or female emotions in that respect, and their differentiation from men, are used as convenient horror tropes in order to get something across. My opinion on this one, given exploring the maternalism as a horror trope, is that this movie is fundamentally different depending upon who's watching, depending if you are male or female, depending upon who's watching this movie. And I think much like Alien, whereas that was about the alien feminizing men because you're being raped by mouth raped by this thing and then impregnated and it bursts out and it kills you. Men will react to this one far differently than women will react to this one. And in this sense, it's taking that maternalism, taking that sacrifice of the mother and the I don't want to say neediness, but the of the child, where the what is that term? The helplessness of the child and turning them into horrific things.
You take vulnerability. I think is what you're.
Vulnerability. Thank you very much. I've lost the word. And the vulnerability of the child and the dedication and the strength of the mother.
When you're looking at horror movies like this, like you're saying, when you're splitting this up between male and female audiences, and kind of okay, well, this is going to hit differently with males than it would with females because of the maternal thing. You also have to take into consideration the father of children. I'm a dad, so my view on what this woman is going through, I think I have more empathy in this light because I know what my wife went through so many times. I was right next to her. I mean, I don't know what she went through because I can't imagine being a woman and carrying a child and the pain and all the physical and emotional changes that come with it, but I can empathize and see it from a little bit. So you're taking a risk when you're splitting up genders like that, but I think this one covers closer to 3/4 instead of half and half, just because you can throw people who have been and seen kind of what they go through on this. So there's I can be more empathetic in this role than somebody who hasn't sat next to somebody who has buried a child, let alone 2, 3, 4 of them. And seen what that is. So it hits differently with me than it would with you, than it would with a woman who has carried a child and a woman who has not carried a child. So it spreads out a little bit deeper, I think, than just splitting it up male and female. But you're absolutely right. It's going to resonate different with every audience, which is it's tricky to do, and you're taking a long or like a leap of faith, if you will, making something like this. But I think what they did with not focusing solely on the undead aspect and a lot of the psychological and physical, I don't want to say, hardships that she was going through during the whole thing and the mental trauma that she's endured from start to finish of this whole thing.
Right.
Having the baby inside of her, losing the baby, and then the baby coming back. There's just a roller coaster of unimaginable emotion there. So I think it resonates with me in a way that it's like, I think it was good because there were so many emotions involved and it wasn't so heavily focused on, oh, it's a zombie. Look at the zombie baby. There's a mental and psychological horror aspect of it as well.
Yeah, zombies, they're an almost neutral medium for whatever story you're telling. Let you play it out, and almost always plays out to human beings or worse. But in this case, they actually they directed at issues associated with motherhood, and thankfully we're breaking the stereotypes on this. But it's always kind of been for fathers. Like, the father's biggest burden is you can never be away enough. In other words, you're not at work enough. You're not killing yourself enough, earning enough pay, bringing it home. But a mother's is she can't be there enough. And it takes the psychological sacrifice the mothers make, the physical sacrifice, and it amps it up. And it's like I've said before, horror is hyperbole. So instead of just, their body changes through pregnancy and through birth, and then, while breastfeeding, they're on this never sleeping cycle, and they bang that through the roof because, she's experiencing this anemia. She's not just breastfeeding this child, she's giving blood to this child, which is not just tiring her, but it's killing her. And it uses all those themes very cleverly to amplify issues that mothers experience. And like one of the ones that remind me of, the mother-in-law that's way too involved that exists.
And way too into her son was really creepy.
Yeah, and it's out there, but this one, it cranks it through the roof to make the point that, and you see it all the time, everybody criticizes mothers. And the sad thing is, it tends to be, unless they have a mommy group that's really strong, that mother stands alone because you've got not just, guys who think they know what it's like and what they know they should do, be it guys in their life or doctors, father, whoever. telling what to do, but other mothers think they know how to do it better and try to force it on them. When we were in the hospital for an extended period of time with my first kid, and my wife wanted to breastfeed, and like it got to a point where I threw the breastfeeding coach out because she was getting so little sleep trying to keep up with this breastfeeding cycle that she was just losing it. And they were showing up, like when she'd start to get sleep, they'd show up and, oh, now you need to do it. You need to do it now. And it's just, reminded me of that. And then beyond that, the one thing this really drew to mind was postpartum depression. And I'm not talking about the way it symptomatically affects the mother, but the interaction between kind of the mother and the outside world, because she's got this complex bond with the child, and it tends to go the other way with postpartum depression, if any way, where they distance themselves from the child, and sometimes it goes a really bad direction where they're harmful to the child. But the fact that, you know, she is completely separated from the outside world trying to deal with this, and everybody is her enemy on it. And that just, the way it played out reminded me very much of that, despite the fact that, like I said, symptomatically, and the way she acted was the complete opposite. Just that, like, the outside world was an absolute enemy to her while she was going through this.
And I got that. It translated well, because ultimately, because everybody throughout the film around her, everybody's it's chalking up that motherhood is this wonderful thing, and you know, there's the community that's behind it, and everybody's talking about how beautiful it is, and everybody in the film around glosses over the difficulties in it and just how hard it is, especially to a newborn, and how difficult this is going to be. She loses her husband in the car accident and supposedly loses the child, then she gets the child back. Now she's on her own. She's got this overbearing mother-in-law that's constantly trying to dictate how she needs to be a mother, and then of course this unique child in the situation that children take from their parents. That is not something that's a mystery, but obviously taking as much as Grace does in this film, taking not only of her body, but taking of her blood, and eventually her very flesh. So this, like you said, it's hyperbolic. It's the hyperbolic representation of what we know naturally, but it also really hammers in how isolating being a new mother is. It's supposed to be this thing where everybody's involved and everybody's, it is this grand, wonderful experience that everybody gets to take part in and be a part of, but it's not. It really, really isn't. It's deeply isolating to the mother, because they're the only ones who are going through that experience. They're the only ones giving of their body. They're the only ones who are connecting at this level, at this unique give and take level with this vulnerable child, because almost like the most powerful of codependent relationships, where one cannot subsist without the other. And that bond, that unshakable bond, is forged in those early months. And when you're all alone, especially for a single mother. And I thought it was portrayed brilliantly in this. That from the outside world, this is what they see. They see what they want to see, and not what's actually going on. Everybody's got their own fucking opinions. Everyone's wants to assert that they know what's going on, and whereas the mother's the only one going through this thing. The power of the isolating power of what the character, what Madeline is going through, how off-putting everyone is, except for her midwife, who herself is then isolated by the people around her, which leads to them, being together towards the end. It's an incredibly nuanced film for as simple as it is, and of course the horrific element that, as we know, being that we're familiar with horror, that Grace, despite what she is, this is a very dangerous thing. This undead, or this ghoul baby, or this, we don't say zombie, this undead baby, and what it could potentially turn into. So it just radiates all these little tendrils that come out, that if you're paying attention and you grasp on, if you're willing to give yourself over to the emotion of the entire film, really let yourself open up to that, then it will hit. And that's why I was bringing up, is like for women, especially mothers, this thing will hit on a far different level than it will your casual single male observer, or the male or the guy who doesn't have children. that they'll watch this, and because we externalize everything, we have a tendency to put everything in boxes and compartmentalize everything around us. We don't really internalize like that until you are like a father will internalize their children differently than of someone who doesn't have kids. And that's why it's like I knew that this movie would hit differently for you and Alex than it hit for me, and it would hit differently for some of our viewers some of our female viewers who have children, and whereas me and my wife, we don't. So really, really intriguing film, way deeper than you would anticipate for such a simple film. No tricks, no real gimmicks here, all practical effects. The baby effects were amazing.
I was like, they were great, yeah.
So, which made it even creepier, you know?
Well, and it, too, it's the one thing I kind of saw about it, and I don't know if this is intended or maybe my reading into it based on experience, but there's also the fact that she has, because she's lost, I think they said she had 2 miscarriages before.
Yeah, she had 2 miscarriages beforehand, and that's why she decided to go the holistic route with the midwife.
And she's almost developed to a pathological level where she, until obviously the child gets there, and then it's kind of an undercurrent, but she is less concerned about, I guess you'd say, having a baby than she is about being a mother. She is just all for it because they show her and her husband having sex, and she is not enjoying this at all. This is a completely mechanical thing they're going through. The kid gets there, it's her dedication to carrying this thing to term, and it's not, they don't portray it, which, you know, this is another thing you kind of have to make an evaluation on. They don't portray it like she's in depression and not doing it, but she's dead set on doing this, and it's kind of like, well, that could kill her. And there are women that choose to take the risk.
Just to piggyback, would you say that her pathological desire or almost obsession with being a mother, the previous 2 failed pregnancies, and the pathological obsession with being healthy, with being organic, with being vegan, and taking care of her body and everything, resulting and ultimately her lifestyle choices kind of alienating the people around her to that pathological degree, then compounds the maternal instinct that she has when she will do anything necessary to keep this child alive or to keep this child with her at all costs, which eventually leads to,
I would say that it's kind of insinuated that that's actually what resulted in this, because normally if you see these stories where they think about the child is dead or the child is doing poorly, the mother holds the child and its life signs improve, or it survives through that means stuff. But obviously this one didn't survive in a textbook manner, and it almost seems like that her absolute, because I think we've had something where we've gotten so dedicated to it, we've forgotten why we even started in the first place, and eventually we realized that we're doing it the wrong way and we got to go back and refigure it. But it's almost like, she's forgotten why she was doing this until the kid's there, and then it rides through as an undercurrent for why she does this, instead of taking and making, more quote unquote intelligent choices, like confiding in the midwife, calling 911 and stuff. But also there's a hint of sadism in the way she acts, because she only eats vegetables and vegetarian food, but she constantly watches documentaries of animals being tortured and killed. And if you're an activist, that's one thing to watch those on occasion, stay updated, but she watches it habitually. And then when she
the negative reinforcement to keep her off of it,
yeah, and then the fly, when the fly showed up too, she kills it and she takes joy in it. There's a smirk that she was glad she killed that fly, and it's almost, she has that undercurrent of, she's actually a little bit of a sadist. And
see, that's not how I took it.
There's a lot of layers here.
That's not how I took it. It was more of her being in control. So you look at, just to piggyback off of all of that, you take somebody who has had miscarriages, and I'm speaking from a point of, from the outside looking in, I've seen this happen before. I actually know a couple that have tried and months and months and months and years. And actually, it ended up going into something like almost 4 years before they finally had a child. But it wore both of the parents out completely. So you go into 2 miscarriages and you're trying and you want to be that mother, and it's so deep that, like you said, not even enjoying the sexual aspect of the relationship only there to provide one thing, and that's a child. And you work so hard and you go through so many emotional it's all this turmoil and the joy of becoming pregnant and the hope and then the crushing blow, you know, repeatedly, that you get this baby and finally you're like, okay, this is, you know, it's another one. I'm going to feel this hurt again. And the baby comes back and you're going to hold on to that child because you're so tired. You're so emotionally, physically drained that now that you have what you want, you would do anything to hold on to it. And you've been so out of control with your life for so long and out of control of this aspect for so long that taking the life of that fly, like you said, was like, it was like I'm finally in control moment. And that's probably where things started to go real fucking south mentally, because it was like, I'm going to make sure that this is what I want it to be, absolutely no matter what.
Well, and she lost a dad too, and it's hard to tell how deeply in love she is with him. We know she at least feels an affection from the dinner scene where, you know, the fact that she cooks meat for him, even though he, you know, she hates it. And then she, you know, wipes away the stain and everything. Yeah, that we know that she does.
That's weird.
That she at least feels some affection, and now this is the last piece of him she's got. So that's going to be even more reason to cling.
Fucking stage 5 clinger right there, and that's
maternalistic horror is rough. Taking female tropes, taking tropes about, you know, femininity and womanhood, and hyperbolizing them to the point of extremity is always rough, and it always makes for a very unique horror experience, because I think different people can identify with it differently. But it's still a grotesque reflection of what we know in reality. But it hits stomachs differently, especially one like this.
Yeah,
Mom, I'm sorry, Mom.
It's rough. Which brings me to a question that I'd like to ask the audience: maternal horror, yes or no? Is this something that should be continued to use in the wake of recent events and a lot of things that have kind of hit a lot of people? You know, really hard, very quickly, very recently. You think this is something that we can push forward with and not get canceled? Let us know in the comment section down below, or weekinhorror@gmail.com.
Let's see.
Send a Telegram message to JL so he can read it while he poops.
Yeah, I Heard Dogs says the lack of new sleep is hard on a new mom. Absolutely. It's brutal. Crafty says, yes, I'm on my own right now. Oh, yeah, I understand that. Feeding a premature newborn every 3 hours now, it's very tough. And we can imagine. Yes, I think these two gentlemen would understand that greatly.
It's going to suck. And it's just seriously, I'm sorry, side tangent for that right there. If that's your case, and specifically because you're here, Crafty, hang in there. Just keep kicking. It does get better, I promise.
Gets there eventually.
Cindy Sue has joined us. Good to see you, Cindy. Says, hi, all. Had to go rescue husband and granddaughter. They were waiting for me by a graveyard. LOL.
We're not asking questions.
Not asking questions, but glad you were able to rescue
them.
Glad
everybody's okay. Well, at least I'm glad they're okay.
Tony Regime says, blood and flesh. Is Grace taking communion literally? Oh, she will be down there towards the end once she starts teething. That was rough. That was hardcore. Richard Meter says, what makes it more terrifying is the utter dependency of the child and the unnatural sense of nurturing by the mother. That compulsion, exactly. Just obviously the drive for that. It just compounds the horrific elements that are seen on screen. McKenna Mitchell says, haven't seen it, but I wonder if there's also an argument to be made that this film has something to say or could say about abortion. Some are ready for motherhood, but a baby is extremely draining. Very interesting, very interesting choice of words there. I could see it. I could see a parallel in that, because she's driven to be a mother to pathological extremes, and you can almost say there's a sense of self-hatred in there because she hates herself, or she blames herself for the loss of her previous two children, blaming her body, blaming her behaviors, and as you know, will do anything to have this child to the point of willing it back to life. So there's extreme there. There is an extreme nature there. I Heart Dog says, I would die for my kids, and they're adults. Absolutely. Raven Darkstar says, I think y'all are just over-annualizing it. LOL. I think I'm analyzing it, but
That's what we're here to do.
That's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
To deep dive them. Ronan Ellis Name says, babies are vampires sucking the life out of their parents. I've heard a few parents say that. And yes, Crafty Keelan, this movie sounds like a seriously fucked up movie. Once you start peeling back the layers, it absolutely gets pretty hardcore. It's definitely a psychological horror film that will play with you, definitely fuck with your emotions. And the Jord is here. Good to see you. And the Jord says, how you doing, my sexy party people? We're doing fantastic. And Crafty Keelan says, don't even need to add in the miscarriages for that mindset to sink in. You have very little control over pregnancy in general. It's easy to become very controlling in the aftermath in order to regain that power. Absolutely. I can see that. Absolutely.
You also absolutely have that right.
We had to work really hard for a second, too. By the end of it, you're just like, oh, I'm tired of the sex.
And thank you so much. Jordan says, glad to relax with the best horror podcast of the internet. Thank you so much. We do appreciate that. Raven Doctor says, it's just another zombie movie. I think there's more to it than that. I think there really, really is.
And for some people, but that's what we're talking about. For some people, it is. It's just another zombie movie.
That's true. That's true.
They don't have that, And it's not even a hit on anybody that doesn't take it like we're analyzing it. For some people, that's all it is. They've never experienced those emotions. So.
Yep. Crafty Keelan says, maternal tropes make it easier to talk about the taboo issues. This is absolutely true. Allow us to kind of like look at things. We look at and internalize things we normally would kind of repel from. And then Tony Regime says, horror holds up a mirror to life, and life has mother. So yes, continue the maternal horror. Absolutely.
It's definitely one of those that you've got to treat with respect, though, because if you don't, you are snubbing your nose at some very important people, those people that kind of put us here.
Raven Doctor says, it's just another fracking zombie movie. Okay. But yeah, definitely let us know what you think. Maternal horror, yes, no? Is there power to that? Nah, it's kind of like using femininity, using womanhood as a horror trope. Is just maybe that's just hitting a little below the belt. Let us know what you think. Absolutely. All right, what we have up next. I love it when we get to talk about Italian horror.
Let's go to Italy.
Let's go to Italy. Released August 16th, 1976. We have The House with the Laughing Windows. Let's roll it.
I miei colori escono dalle mie vene, sono lisci come la sifilide e vanno dentro gli occhi della gente.
Sei già stato in chiesa?
Questa mattina?
Allora hai già visto l'affresco?
Sì, perché?
Avrei preferito l'avessi visto con me. Non devi parlarne assolutamente con nessuno. Credo di aver scoperto la storia più allucinante che si possa immaginare. Ecco perché ho fatto in modo che chiamassero te.
Solo un grande artista può dare un senso così vero alla morte.
Se vuoi cominciare a capirci qualcosa, devo portarti in un posto. C'è una casa dalle finestre che ridono.
Non mi rompete i coglioni! Lo sapete che se io parlo? Lo sapete che se io voglio? Lo sapete che no! Le sorelle erano delle gran puttane. Si accoppiavano come cagni in calore.
Credo di aver scoperto tutto, qualcosa di orribile. Nella tua stanza. Presto! No! Tu lo sai come lo chiamavano qua Legnani? Pittore di agonie.
Le sorelle avevano cominciato con lui un rapporto che una volta incominciato non si può mica più finire. Non si deve andare contro natura.
Va bene, maresciallo.
Pensa un po' quando hanno cominciato a scarseggiare i morti.
Ma cosa credi che vado in chiesa e vedo un quadro e mi spavento soltanto perché vedo un quadro in chiesa?
Oggi ha ritratto quella sgualderina mentre crepava.
Ma se io sono ancora vivo e Coppola è vivo, Dio buono. Perché a Coppola non devo mettere il culo a nessuno, hai capito?
Ho molta paura, sai.
Anch'io. Ma per me è diverso. Io quando voglio posso andarmene di qua.
Why would you light your crotch first, man?
I don't know why you'd start there.
That dick is on fire.
Yes, that is The House with the Laughing Windows. It is a 1976 Italian giallo film, co-written and directed by Pupi Avati, and starring Lino Capoluccio, Francesca Marciano, and Gianni Cavina. The story is an intriguing story. Definitely, this is so giallo. I couldn't think of another film that was more giallo than this one. But the story follows Stefano, who arrives in the village of the Valle di Camaccio area where he's been employed to restore a fresco that depicts what appears to be the martyrdom of Saint Sebastian. But while restoring it, comes to discover that the artist, a long-dead artist named Legnani, may have been chopping up people in the town's area and using them as inspiration for the artwork, along with his equally insane sisters. And then, of course, this begins to uncover the unfortunate or the tragedy that may have befallen the creation of this fresco. Someone starts dropping the people all around him to keep him from discovering the full truth behind the artist and his infernal legacy. So, and with that little, with a nice little twist at the end, which I kind of dug. So this was absolutely pure giallo film, and widely considered one of the greatest giallo films ever created. Pupi Avati is considered one of the greats, up there with Bava and dang, I totally lost the name. Fucking Bava and Fulci and Argento and a number of others. But have a good night, Craft Tequila. Thanks so much for being here. We do appreciate it. And Travis Brown says, I know what Poopy is, and it is not this film. This is true. But definitely, I like that. The House of the Flaming Testicles, because the guy in the trailer set his balls on fire. But I love this one. Not your standard, not like obviously not the typical Italian fare where you have the such extreme stuff like blood and gore and dismemberments and all kinds of nasty cannibalism and all kind of just gory shit. But a really
murder.
Really phenomenal atmospheric slow burn that just pumps up the dread all the way up until the last scene when the friar is like fucking cackling and you realize that everybody's in on it. So I fucking love this one. This is such a good one. It starts off a little slow as you're getting through your establishment, but the one thing that got me that I absolutely loved about this one, let me go back to my notes here real quick, was two things. It was one, cinematography speaking. The way Avati shot these, with so many of his scenes being such wide shots. The wide shots he utilized to encompass the grand architecture of Italy. The vaulted ceilings and these wide open spaces in just a single room where so much can be going on, so much activity that a lot of people could be in there with only one person navigating the space. And there's all this detail and all this production value all around him, but it's one single person in the camera following this individual either along their journey or from a wide angle where we get to see them. I love the juxtaposition of small people, again, of the person against something huge, indicating throughout the entire film that there's something grander going on. That this man, Stefano, is just a small piece in a very large puzzle. And I really enjoyed that. There's a good nod, a good hint to the audience there in the cinematography. And then, of course, the fact that encompassing the nature of horror, the shit that goes on without us knowing it. That the most simple things, the most innocuous things could have sinister or even appalling histories behind them, and that sometimes we take the kind of facade, the innocent facade, for granted, and how there could be darkness lurking behind everything. I fucking love how Avati nailed this.
Well, and it's kind of along the lines of a trope that it got really popular with Twin Peaks, and it's making a comeback now in a lot of other stuff. It's the kind of the quote-unquote small town with secrets, and it's these small towns where everything's supposed to be super simple, and people, supposedly, like he says, if you need to know something, all you need to do is go to the nearest window. But the reality is that the most important things, the worst things, are not out there, for at least a visitor to know. Everybody knows, but nobody's talking about it.
Right.
And if you're an outsider, you're not going to find out. And these kind of fester under the surface. And they do a really good job with this. Of the thing I really give it is, this thing is a huge red herring film. And typically with red herrings, you see them take and they drop one here and one here and one here, and it all leads off to a single incorrect conclusion. And this one, it drops what seems to be red herrings everywhere, pointing left and right. This person, maybe this person, maybe this person. And it turns out it is technically almost none of them, but every damn one of them knew that this was going on. So they're all correct in pointing out the fact that he's an outsider to this, and that basically he's fucked. Put it bluntly. Like,
he was not getting out of that.
turned,
No, he was not getting out of that last room alive. That was not
once
going to happen.
one or two people in the town have turned against him, the entire town turned, because now there is an agenda, because they all share the secret. If he, rats out that one person that has a secret, it takes everybody else with it, especially in a struggling town like this, which is why I read the new mayor was supposed to be an outsider, but even he wouldn't help him, and I think that's why is just because of money. He knew it would ruin the town. Town's already struggling. It's half dead.
The town's half dead. Yeah, well, it's like, man, this painting is beautiful. Yeah, he painted it in a psychosis after he murdered.
Maybe we should stop murdering the tourists. That'd be really good for the tourist trade. Yeah.
Well, let them spend their money first, and then you take them out. It just makes it all.
That was
Hey,
the big
Elizabeth.
one. Go ahead. Sorry.
I said, hey, Elizabeth.
Oh, Elizabeth Sylvester's here. Good to see you, Elizabeth. Thanks so much for hanging out. One of our amazing supporters. And this was the intriguing, because I like it when simple innocuous things are we find out that this reminded me very much of going through high school and learning history, and then going to college and learning history and learning all the things that they do not teach you in elementary school. All this stuff.
I got a book. It's actually right there. It's called Lies My Teacher Told Me.
Right.
Yeah.
So you get the sense of that. And then the darkness behind everyday things. But it also really, really got me in the sense that there is what Avati would seem to really resonate with me was Avati had a sense of grasping this concept of the difference between the aesthetic and the real, and how we watch these things and we see the horrors that are depicted here. We know that they're fiction. We know this is a fucking movie. We laud all these grand these grand congratulations, all these kudos on Avati for his accomplishments as a filmmaker, and of course all of the other Italian directors and all of the things they do, no matter how extreme or grotesque or violent they happen to be. But we see them. And then we say, this is a magnificent art. Look what it does here. We can deep dive it. We can see all these great things from it. From this horrific fresco that he's restoring on the wall that is supposed to depict the martyrdom of a saint, when in actuality what we're looking at is essentially the killer has painted a portrait of his own actions, of what he himself has done, and used that to inspire something else. And it's the darkness behind the inspirations of these. The real versus the aesthetic. That what we see is completely fiction, but there are dark thoughts, and there's real darkness behind some of this stuff. Some of these inspirations. You look at something like Silence of the Lambs. Magnificent fucking movie. Anthony Hopkins, Jodie Foster, Academy Award winning. Brilliantly done. Brian, directing wise, everything about it, all the choices that were made there. But there are inspirations behind that. Real terrifying inspirations that were behind that kill. There was a real doctor who was a serial killer, who was an inspiration for Hannibal Lecter. Same thing with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We look at it for the bombastic grotesquerie of that movie and how absurd and how insane it is when it has roots in reality. And Avati seemed to grasp this and kind of reflect it back at us. You say we openly applaud the darkness in front of us when we know it's fake. But we still do it even when we know there's real shit behind it. And I was kind of like, huh.
It gets to a point. So yes, and this one goes that goes so deep. It goes so deep because it's like the house with the laughing windows, and you're looking at real life. Okay, so you've never experienced a traumatic. I don't know. I can't even come up with an example that isn't like triggering almost, but like you've never experienced a traumatic situation. You see it on film. It's done well. It doesn't really affect you.
Right.
Now, you've seen this traumatic experience in real life before. You see it on film. It triggers something in your brain, and then you get that reaction to it. And then you've never seen this before, but you're really sensitive to stuff like that anyways, and you see it. So there's so many different angles that you could view this from, and it's interesting to look into and kind of think about what was going through the mind of the artist in this instance, or and even in paintings. You see some of these like Renaissance paintings, and you see these grotesque images of in front of a castle, and somebody's either getting gored by a spear, or somebody's getting their head cut off. It's not like they just were like, oh, I'm going to draw that today. They had to sit and think about what that would look like, how that would feel, and they had to create that piece of art. And if it's done well, it's both beautiful and terrifying because it's in that person's mind. There are people out there that can just think these things up, but there's also the people out there that have seen it and experienced it. And to put these things side by side, not knowing anything, if you were to put two of those pictures side by side, you might not be able to determine which one had actually experienced the trauma or which one had just come up with it. And the psychology behind that is so interesting because it's like, if you've never experienced it, how did you do it so well? That means you sat and thought about it for a really long time. That makes you kind of fucked up, but also really interesting. And you make really good art, and it makes other people feel a certain way. So that circle of art and emotion and experience and trauma, it's kind of a beautiful tornado of just twisted, fucked up shit that makes up the horror genre, which makes, stuff like this, even if you don't like the cinematography, even if you look at the story and you're like, well, it's kind of predictable, you gotta also think somebody came up with this in their fucking head. So they're like this twisted person. Yeah, it's just, you can relate, but you want to disconnect, but you also want to be, in on what's going on, depending on what you've experienced or what you've seen in life, or what you haven't, or what you might think about when you're sitting by yourself in your room at night. It's so interesting to me. I think about that a lot when we started talking about this, and you're like talking about aesthetics versus the real life, and it's just kind of like, where's the line? Can you determine the line? I mean, there's some really bad movies that it's like, clearly you've never seen this in real life, and you have no idea what this looks like, and this is terrible. But it's movies like this where it's like, okay, kind of almost low budgety, but also like done beautifully, and there's passion in it. So it's like, where's that passion coming from? Is that from trauma? Is that from curiosity? Or is it that just because you're a sick, twisted individual?
And I dig that we're carried along the journey. We're carried along Stefano's journey. That the red herrings for him are the red herrings for us, or they turn out to not be red herrings. Where nothing is really what it seems, because we are only subject to the information we're able to glean from any given particular scenario. Right. That we can only pull the information that we, from what we have to work with. Stefano knows where he is. He knows what he's working on. He has a vague idea of the people that are around him and the vague idea of what history entails. But there's so much more that he's missing. And what appears to be, like Aaron was pointing out, to be red herrings all over the place. But no, they look like red herrings because you didn't know the real awful truth behind these things. And so the reflection of how you never really know what's going on behind any given particular tragedy, any real particular trauma. You can make assumptions all you like, and typically those assumptions wind up biting you in the ass, as they do to our protagonist, who realizes at the very end he's not getting out of this one, unfortunately. He literally walked himself right into it.
It was literally the biggest, like, oh, fuck.
And as it dawns on him, and he just kind of, he's like, Oh, it was wild. It really resonated. I think this is I understand why this is regarded as one of the greatest giallo films ever made, because it was one of the strongest reflections of reality. The horror is grotesque and horrific, even though I know that the body that they had up in like the formaldehyde shit is a little kind of, it was a little there. But the stabbing scene was quite effective. There was a good effective amount of gore, and of course the murders that are taking place around the town in order to keep the big secret. But that's the whole point, is that real life is horrific in small ways. It's horrific, you get real terror, real horror, but it doesn't happen all over the place. It's not all like, everybody dying all around us. It's these moments that you get hit with. And then in the trauma of that moment, you're trying to kind of like rebalance yourself, which our protagonist does, which he kind of loses himself in the relationship with Francesca. And so as he's trying to maintain his balance, he keeps getting hit left and right, until eventually he's blundered himself into his own demise.
Oh, and it's tied to, to the fact that, like you said, it's the thing in the next room, basically. We all have the friend or the friend of the friend that went through these experiences. And some people with these horrific topics, like murder or different types of assault, they go out, they pull up the case file. They look at it directly. Some are just slightly more oblique. They watch true crime. Other people want something that has been pushed a little more into the ridiculous, which is kind of what horror is. It's taking these topics and making them almost a game with the corn syrup blood and the slightly more ridiculous plots, or combining multiple elements like it does in this with art and murder, and then the stuff he was involved in with his family. I don't want to say the I word because I'm afraid YouTube will shut us down, but the familial relations they were involved in, and they compound them all and stack them together, make them a little more ridiculous so that we get to explore that. And this, what we're already seeing, where people thought horror was not a worthy genre, it's growing into one now. The people who were fans when they were kids are developing into something a little bit more refined here and there. But back in the day, it was fairy tales that they told their kids to caution them against strangers in all of these situations. And we tackle it obliquely because we don't have it within us to go straight to the heart of it. And that may be a good thing for some people because they're too sensitive for it, whereas others may need to be a little more exposed to it to really get it because they're dumb as a brick. But I think that's what films like this really do a great job of, is just combining all of those elements and letting you run right through them pale-male. And the ending, so torn, because I'm like, it's a great ending, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, dude, he never had a fucking chance.
Never had a chance. Never had a chance.
It was in his face.
But that leads me to I want to ask the question, because this is intriguing. We don't get to talk. We've talked a lot about Italian horror, but typically it's been the more extreme stuff like Cannibal Ferox and Cannibal Holocaust and zombie and shit like that. So we've talked about the extreme stuff. But we don't really get to talk about giallo films all that often. I know we've talked about like two of them before this. But your giallo film, you're taking a name from the yellow paperbacks, from the yellow covers of the paperbacks that used to be sold in Italy. Typically, they're crime thrillers with extreme violence and sexual assaults, all kinds of just dirty stuff. And so the films that would take the inspiration from that became known as giallo films. And my curiosity is this: giallo films tend to run a little bit closer to real life than some people would like. They represent kind of the seedy underbelly, kind of the darkness of humanity, the Henenlotter and the remind me his name. Ferrara. Yeah, exactly. Looking at the underbelly of society and the things that we don't want to talk about, but the things that we know are obviously there and are obviously going on. So my curiosity is this: I want to ask the audience, do you prefer a giallo horror running a little bit closer to reality than your typical garden variety horror film, more supernatural, more extreme events, whereas these ones run a little bit closer to home? Do you like giallo horror? Is a yes or no for you? Do you like your horror running a little bit closer to home, or do you like to keep those horror elements out there, kind of like hyperbole for the stuff that is, we don't like to deal with? A little bit more extreme, or do you like the kind of like really close shit? The shit that kind of makes you wonder what's really going on all around you. Let us know down in the comments below, or here in the live chat, or of course at weekinhorror@gmail.com. And I want to say hi to Joshua Lee, who's in the house, who just showed up, says hello everyone, sorry I'm late. You're right on time, bud. The wizard arrives precisely when he means to. Do appreciate it. And, of course, Ordinary Jeff is here as well. Greetings, all. Good to see you, Ordinary Jeff. Appreciate you being here. And, oh, yes, and we got a bunch of yeses. So, I Heart Dog says, yes, reality rules. McKinnon Mitchell says, yes, Giallo films. Giallo, is it's a nice subgenre that has a deep following, a deep and dedicated following to those kinds of films. I know a couple people that still collect the old, they collect the old Giallo paperbacks.
They've got a documentary on Shudder. They released it a couple months back. But Bay of Blood may be the single best ending of any movie, or A Bay of Blood may be the single best ending of any horror movie ever.
Fantastic.
Just everybody that needs to die dies, and then we get to move on. Da, 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 da.
Joshua Lee says, the giallo-horror does tend to create more fear for me. Yeah, runs a little closer to home. Definitely makes you look over your shoulder quite a bit. All right, let's jump on to our next one. Aaron, I'm so sorry about this one that you got this one, but but we'll dive into it.
Do we have to? Can we just like throw it like a stone? Can we throw it like a stone so it just kind of skips?
I said we didn't have to spend too much time on it. I want to dive into it because there's things to be there's things to be gleaned from this one.
Okay.
Not necessarily good things, but
let's put it this way: you can get it on Filmzy, so that's just enough right there.
This was definitely an in the can production. That's where it belongs. August 16th, 2012, we have Mind Games. Unless heard misheard.
Oh my god.
That's Uncle must have been loaded.
Let's check the lights.
You guys gotta see this.
No.
The cycle.
Is this up for discussion?
This is amazing.
This place is creepy.
There's no one there, mate.
Shh.
The Orin from the Neverending Story.
Right.
So it's got nothing to do with that.
Not playing.
Open the door.
I don't want him in the house.
This is not the right house. And where are we?
All right. Directed by Richard Gray, God Help His Soul. Written by Robert Cross, Michelle Gray, and Richard Gray. And starring Alex Mraz, Juliana Gill, Rafi Gabron, Brianna Evigan, and Joseph Cross. And basically this is a twisty-turny time travel, quote-unquote, game where they're stuck in a time loop even though they only execute it once. And they doom themselves because they're all a bunch of college assholes.
Generally.
I mean, yeah. So
you don't get the trailer. Sorry, the trailer gives me like a mix between like the game Until Dawn mixed with like half of Cabin in the Woods, but only the half where they show like the teenagers. They don't have like all the cool shit happening in the background. I don't know why. It was Until Dawn just like resonates in that trailer.
So McKenna Mitchell says, the old attractive young people in the woods horror. And Joshua Lee says, yawn, teenage group gets into situation. This is true. This is absolutely true. Then where are we? Prime time, bitch. That's damn straight. So, obviously, I mean, okay. People are going, I already know it. People are going to accuse me of trying to polish a turd on this one. I am not going to polish a turd on this one. This movie is unfortunately a bit of a turd. It tries to do something, but it really tries to pull something off. but it really drops the fucking ball. I can honestly say I have zero sympathy for any of the characters in this fucking movie. I didn't care. I didn't care about a single goddamn one of them. I was like, I hope you die. I hope you die. I hope you die. And just waiting for the people to get picked off. The problem is that this movie tries to do what other films have done before it. Films like Triangle or films like Primer. It tries to do something a way better, but it drops the fucking ball and it fucks up the balance between horror and sci-fi. Between you either have your horror film, and then you have elements of sci-fi, or you have a sci-fi film with elements of horror. And there's a kind of percentage there that works, maybe 60-40, maybe 70-30. This one, it just fucks up that balance. And so it's definitely a horror film with some sci-fi tropes. But it's way too much horror tropes, not enough of the sci-fi, a little bit of fucking mysticism thrown in there, throws the whole thing out of whack, and the recipe is just recipe for disaster.
There was a 2017 film that came out that was not really a horror movie, more of just like a stuck in a cave movie, that was even more unpredictable and better shot, better written, and more timey-wimey, called Time Trap. I don't know if you guys ever watched that movie, but it was called Time Trap, and it was scarier than this movie was because it was more unpredictable.
Well, I mean, look at The Endless. Like,
oh,
no,
fuck
it's not
yes.
spot on, but it's a time loop movie, and it's done beautifully. It gave them time to really fully comprehend what was going on with the time loop, whereas in this one, they throw them in a situation. You see them say, this is the first time, and you assume, oh, we're going to loop and loop and loop until we get a chance to get out. Maybe some people are going to die, some people are going to survive, but it doesn't. All it does is it basically switches the movie around till it gives you a run-through of all the dead bodies. It runs through the results, and then it plays through with how they got there, almost with the characters as witnesses to their own death. There was never really a chance to escape, except for the one pop-up at the end, and by that time, you're like, well, if that had happened, this shit wouldn't have executed, so what are you doing with it? It's like a floppy dick in the wind. There's nothing to do with it, man.
Raven Darkster says TNA horror. I wish it was TNA horror. It's not
That would've
even
made it better.
that.
That would have made it better.
We got more dude ass than we got titties. And
that was
I don't have a problem with dude ass, but we got more dude ass than we got titties, and then we got some bareback. So obviously you know who is getting paid what in the film. So, but in this particular one, you only see some titties one time, and then they're quickly the horror movie trope. You have sex, you're dead, and then here's what was
random people
really
in a fucking Winnebago.
Yeah, and then here's the fucking thing that got
me. Just out of nowhere.
What was totally jarring is, one, you are correct. The causality loop is an interesting concept and is done to better effect. Like you said in the movie that you mentioned, Time. What was it, Aaron?
Or
sorry, what was it, Alex?
The Endless.
Time Trap.
Time Trap.
Time Trap,
yeah.
and Endless, where that was multiple time, time or multiple causality loops, where people were stuck in different loops of different lengths of time. Right. Endless was beautifully done, and I think that was an offshoot of that was actually kind of a sequel to another film, which was explored that universe that those directors had created, and so. In this particular one, and like the movie Triangle, which was also a causality loop, which follows Melissa George, she and her friends board the ship. Then we find out that this loop has been going on because we see all the bodies piling up and all the craziness going on as it finally reveals what's happening and how she herself is the killer trying to break the loop and get out of this. But then we realize that she can't because she's trapped. So there's no closure in this one. There is no understanding why they're in this situation, any or even a hinted at reason as to why they're in this situation. There was nothing elicited. That it's just they literally dose a horror movie, which was your typical things: stupid kids go into woods and then do stupid shit and then wind up getting killed. And then they dose it with some sci-fi elements and a little bit of mysticism. The most jarring fucking thing was, which really fucking annoyed me, was fucking Rebecca DaCosta's character, the Brazilian chick, the Claire, who is, or no, not Claire, fucking Rose, who just suddenly all of a sudden starts going into fits and seeing shit that's not there and eventually winds up getting more and more out of control until she has a seizure and she fucking dies. For no fucking reason. And then then they add in this element of the driving force of the movie is Michael. and his experience, what he's trying to do, and they make him unreliable because they make the character schizophrenic. So this is what it was deeply problematic. It felt very much like several people had their hands on this script and didn't change enough and kept too much. They just added more elements. They kept tacking shit on to try and give this fucking movie depth. But ultimately, this was just, I don't understand why this movie pissed me off as a writer. It aggravated the fucking shit at me as a writer, especially when you're trying to emulate better done movies who have done the sci-fi horror balance effectively, and you fuck it up so badly. When you have other movies that do it well, look at those. You're even emulating aspects of those movies, and you couldn't even copy them right. Fucking lazy as shit.
Well, and this movie was previous to these, but Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You. Happy Death Day to You is the one that probably pushes it the most into the sci-fi realm because they show the device and stuff, and it strays fairly far from horror, in my opinion. It was still a good movie. Whether it's going to qualify as horror or sci-fi, if you get the plot down, it's great. But like you said, it's like they took basically a rotten piece of meat and threw more and more spices on it, trying to make it taste decent, and you end up getting your britches off in the end.
Holy shit. Holy shit. It's the fucking Taco Bell. It's the Taco Bell meat of horror. Is what it is. That's what this is.
It might not be, but I guess we'll just eat it because it kind of tastes good.
I mean, it's not a movie that's... Well, let's say it's not a movie that's so bad you'll just turn it off. It's like, this is fucking bullshit. At least there's enough driving force to watch to the end and maybe to get some goddamn closure. But the film was extremely poor. It was very poorly written. There was not a lot of attention paid to the structure of the film, to the pacing of the film. It's wonky and disjointed at points. It tries to be one thing while ultimately failing to be what it originally, like, the film doesn't know what it wants to be. And then of course you have these, lackluster performances that are kind of like, phoned in. Nobody really wants to be there. But McKinnon says, "Curb your tongue, jail. Nobody disses Taco Bell in front of me." I'm just talking about the quality of the meat, what they do. They season the fuck out of that shit to make it palatable. I mean, come on. We all know that.
See, I was trying so hard. It was a terrible analogy because I fucking love Taco Bell. But only
don't knock me. I was one of the first in line when they brought back the Mexican pizza. Don't fuck with me. I mean, I'll fucking murder a Mexican pizza all day long.
I see what you did there.
Listen, if you're high enough, either this movie or that meat's good. That's all I'm saying. And qualifier.
But that's the kicker thing. I mean, I understand what they were trying to do, but ultimately there's so many more films that do this trope better, that are able to balance sci-fi and horror. Because you look at it. Look at movies, like any movie that is sci-fi horror, from The Thing all the way to fucking Prometheus, okay? Whether or not I actually happen to like Prometheus, but that's just me. Yeah, I'm probably one of the...
Not just you, it's a good movie.
It's a good movie. So, or when you look at sci-fi horror, the balance between science fiction and horror is I don't even really think it's that precarious. You can fuck it up, but it's really not that precarious. You just have to know the science elements of your film, and this is what they are, and then the horror elements that result from that science. Don't sit here and paint a science watercolor and then just drop horror drops all over it and expect to have something cohesive. And even if you want to be abstract with the mysticism and shit, what the fuck? Okay? Yeah. They didn't even lean into that. It was just tertiary. Like, we need something to kind of bind these together. So we're going to use this mystical thing about the Ouroboros and this cyclical life and shit. But that just adds more confusion to it. Is this a mystical event or is this a fucking science fiction event? I don't fucking know. I was annoyed. I really was annoyed because there's just so many more films that do it better. What is this, McKinnon? McKinnon says, "Oh my God, you're the asshole who bought that fucking Mexican pizza thing. I lost the volcano burrito because of that. I've never seen anyone purchase that fucking pizza."
Dude, there were riots over that shit.
It legitimately is the only thing I buy from Taco Bell. And I stopped going to Taco Bell.
It wasn't the second time.
I stopped going to Taco Bell when they stopped carrying. This is a more interesting conversation than the movie.
Well, they had one. It was a soft taco with potato wedges and chili in it. and it was the most delicious secret sin I have ever had in my entire life.
The meaty potato burrito, I remember. No, it was the spicy burrito or spicy potato. Why are we talking about Taco Bell?
I don't know.
I said this conversation is more interesting than the fucking movie. McKinnon says, if they wanted to blend sci-fi and horror, they should have gone Lovecraftian. Yes, going in a cosmic horror direction. Going in a cosmic horror direction would have been far more interesting. To give some elements, maybe some like fucking Richard Chambers, or if you want to go full Lovecraftian, say there's maybe some elder shit going on here, something in the mind, something deeper, something that's resonating. Very similar. Not a causality movie, not like a causality loop movie, but very similar to Black Mountainside, where you have something there that's resonating, causing the insanity all around it, causing the distortions all around it. So whereas that movie was distortions in behavior, this one could have been distortions in time, which would have been interesting. But nonetheless...
Well, when you do sci-fi and horror, just generally anything where you've got causality, whatever, it's going to get complex. You've got to have rules, and you go by those rules, and you don't have to tell the rules. But if you can get people to feel them and know them enough that they feel fear when you start to run against them, you've done a fantastic job. And this one just had none of that. I mean, the visions didn't help. If they'd have surprised us and the schizophrenic guy was actually saving everybody by killing them somehow, cool, but it just ran it out to the end.
Right. Yeah, definitely better ones out there.
Let me throw this out there real quick, because if we're gonna compare back and forth, so there was films like Donnie Darko, which was, I think I saw it in the chat. It's a tough ride, but it's really well done because the writer and the director kind of had an idea of what they wanted to throw out there. This is what we're going to do. We're going to throw it out there. We don't give a shit if anybody doesn't understand. This is what we want to make. And it was great. I saw it early. I had to watch it 73 times before I understood what the fuck was going on. In the aspect of timey-wimey stuff. Now this, it was kind of like, hey, we did this time loop. See? Huh? You see it? You see the time loop? You get it? Yeah, it makes sense. It's like, don't make it blatantly fucking obvious. Like, make me think about it. Make me confused. I want to have to, like, watch it 3 times to be like, okay, if they were here, then this and this and this. I got to get my notebook out and write down, like, okay, this is the line here. I want to do that with timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly bullshit. Like, not put, like, here. Oh, did you see it? Did you see what I did there? Like, no, fuck you.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Like, there's this bad shit that happened. You want to see how we got there?
Right.
Watch.
No, don't tell me how you got there. Make me fucking think, because I'm smarter than the average cookie.
At least treat your audience with some respect.
Right. It's. I was gonna say smarter than you, but they put a movie in the fucking can, so I guess I don't know. So. But still, like, don't fucking hand it to me. Make me work for it.
When you go, what the fuck, and you know that you're the one who's missed something, you're not understanding, rather than going, what the fuck, and you feel that they're the ones that have left a loose string, then it's good if it's on you and not on them. But this one, all that stuff, I'm like, you shit your pants.
McKenna Mitch says, it's the only thing I buy at Taco Bell. I now retract my offer for you to be in my film. Oh, that's hardcore. I promise you, I'll buy you whatever you want at Taco Bell. All you want. That's my bribe. I'll bribe you at Taco Bell.
Now you're just kissing ass.
Now I'm just kissing ass. I totally am. Rodinel's name says, all Taco Bell food is the same ingredients wrapped in something different. And McKenna Mitchell says, we know that before we go there. Mind your business. That's hilarious.
All right. Speaking on moving on from shit. So the question we have for the audience is, what is your favorite time loop horror? You can let us know at weekinhorror@gmail.com, in the comments below, or in the live chat. And any time loop horror but this is
right
there for
me. Honestly, Triangle is up there for me, with Melissa George on the ship, on the Aeolus. God damn, that was a fucking good movie. And it played the loop so well to the reveal that she is the killer that they encounter on the boat. And I was like, fuck. And then, of course, setting up, and then the heart-wrenching reveal as to how she got in the situation. Fuck, that one was done so well. Rodinella Sam brings up Hypercube. Cube 2 Hypercube is also really quite good.
Yeah.
Agreed.
The only thing I had with Triangle is it was on cable, and they would have channels that would run the same movie over and over and over and over. That was the first place I saw it, and I woke up in the middle of it. So I saw it from the middle. It caught my attention to the end, and I had no idea what the shit was going on the entire time. I had to stay right there and watch it through again just to figure out what the hell I had just seen.
Fuck yeah! What a mess! What a mess!
All right, Alex, you got our last one, man.
Let's bring it home with something just astronomically better than this.
Fucking
one,
A.
Which was The Night House. Came out August 20th, 2021.
All houses wherein men have lived and died are haunted houses. Through the open doors, the harmless phantoms on their errands glide, with feet that make no sound upon the floors. We meet them at the doorway, on the stair, along the passages they come and go. Impalpable impressions on the air, a sense of something moving to and fro.
The Night House. Rated R.
It's superbly crafted horror movie indeed, as the review said there. This was directed by David Bruckner, written by Ben Collins and Luke Petrowski. This one starred Rebecca Hall, Sarah Goldberg, Vonnie Curtis Hall, Evan Jurgenit. Jeanakit, Stacey Martin, David Bellis, and Christina Jackson. Patrick Klein was in this one too. This movie follows a woman whose husband suddenly and unexpectedly dies, and she is left alone in a house that he had built for her at a lake, isolated away from civilization, and things start to slowly, physically and mentally dissolve in a way that ends up in some pretty horrific but also very intriguing horror scenes. Some of these scenes reminded me of... I was always intrigued by what lies beneath. And I felt like if What Lies Beneath was done now, I think about it all the time. I've watched it recently. I think if they redid it, this would be it, and it was done perfectly.
Absolutely. The kicker on this one is I love haunted house films. I love ghost stories. Not so much what they say about the supernatural, but about the human element of these particular ones, and especially ones like The Night House, in which the aspects of trauma and grief are captured so beautifully, and the experience of the individual that's undergoing these, because the primary character played magnificently by Rebecca Hall, Beth, who is currently, when we come into the story, is literally in the peak of grief and loss and confusion after her husband's unexpected suicide. And of course, suicide's always is generally unexpected, but literally no note, I think there was a note that was barely explanatory, and no understanding whatsoever. And as she navigates her grief and the isolation, and the confusion of the situation, and just the trauma of this hitting her and being on her own, and she's navigating this, and she's trying to uncover why her husband did what he did, and the dark secrets behind her home, and I don't want to give too much away. I'm trying to choose my words carefully.
No, it's still pretty new. This is a fresh one.
Construction across the lake.
Yeah.
I would just say that as she's beginning to uncover this, and then as we're with her on that journey, it personalizes the experience so profoundly that this one haunted me for a couple of days after I watched it. It's a unique experience that I think only those who've been through it can really connect to on a particular level. So this is very similar to Grace, where particular people who've experienced certain things will internalize the film a little bit differently. But ultimately, I think we can all see what her journey is and what she's going through, and the anger and the frustration and the grief, and of course, the infuriating. Sadly, it comes from a good place, but the infuriating feelings that the feelings of infuriation that come with people trying to assuage your pain, and but having no concept of it, and you know it comes from a good place. But they can't help. But they keep trying, and it's really aggravating. And she runs the entire gamut until eventually the what is going on is truly revealed, and it's far more horrific than she could possibly anticipate. But those little things, like the heightened awareness to certain noises, the lack of other noises, that then increases that heightened awareness because you keep expecting to hear certain things and then you don't hear them. And then the things that you do hear that are out of the ordinary are suddenly louder, sharper, more terrifying. The disbalance and the disjointed nature of your universe once something this traumatic occurs. The quiet juxtaposed against the loud, and how you're emotionally into this, and of course the perceptions, what grief and trauma and isolation and these things do to your perception of reality. From the little shadows you see out of the corner of your eye. Beautifully captured. The cinematography on this film is bar none. This is how you shoot a fucking ghost story.
God, you saw it in the trailer too. There was a scene with the flashlight in the fog. That scene was like, it was the whole time. I don't know. I think I might have been like holding my own hand because it was all like, something's gonna happen, But then what happens isn't actually what you think is gonna happen, and it's like the whole time you're thinking one way, and it pulls you another. And then it takes you real quick the other way. It's so well done.
Yeah, so, we've all gone through that thing where we've lost someone or something, and it could be anything as small as a cat. I'm not comparing that to the loss of a person, but it's part of the fact that when that person is a constant part of your habitual life, and you hear constant sounds or see constant sights, like you see the cat walk through the hall out of the corner of your eye, and it takes you a certain amount of time to realize there's no cat. Or, you hear a cabinet, think you hear a cabinet shut, when no cabinet has actually shut. It's just something your brain does because it's so used to the person doing this thing at this time, in this manner. There's not just, we don't have to just process the loss of people on a higher level where we're going through grief, but we have to process it on a lower level in our everyday lives and how we conduct ourselves. And that kind of speaks to it in a big way because, and it's in the trailer too, is that where she's looking and it's basically a column and all of a sudden it shipped and it's a damn person and it was a part of it and everything. And there's that's just a small example of the stuff that they do to make this not just a good storyline, but visually powerful. And actually, I talked to my wife about this to get her permission before I discussed it, but we were in Arizona and my mother-in-law actually took her own life. She lived with us. She had retired with us and she went out in the desert and took her own life. And not to go into the deep details of the story, but the big thing is, to me, to a smaller degree, but to my wife and to our children to a great degree, most of your life, you're doing one emotion at a time, maybe a small background emotion, but you have to learn to process loving and missing a person and being very angry at them at the same time because they did this really, really shitty thing by doing what they did. And there can be varying reasons, and none of them are good enough, really, outside of maybe euthanasia to justify what they have done. So they do a good job of portraying that.
The thing that got me was you're pulled in two directions because it's the lack of understanding and you can compartmentalize with what she's going through. You can see what she's going through, but then how it's driven by the lack of understanding and which leads to that anger and leads to being pulled in two different directions. You want your more sympathetic feelings with your more antagonistic feelings, and how these kind of manifest themselves and come out at her friends and lead them to begin questioning her stability in that respect because, is she okay being on her own because she hasn't been on her own in so long and everything seemed fine. Now all of a sudden everything is a whirlwind. And then what got me is that when we're in these states, these emotional states, as I experienced myself when my father passed back in 2003, and he passed from natural causes, but that sudden loss, that sudden void in your life does wild fucking things to your head. And I could follow her on this journey in this respect, that there are things that this trauma and this grief and this isolation that they do to your perception. You can see things that are not there. You can experience things. Your brain kind of fills in the gaps. So you're expecting to hear one thing, so you make it up, and you think you hear it, but there's really nothing there. Or sometimes you fail to see what is around you because you want so badly to try and understand. So you try to fill in the gaps yourself. This is where the power in this movie is. The power is both in the writing and in the acting. Rebecca Hall brought this thing, like the weight of this film is on her shoulders. I've rarely have I seen as nuanced and powerful a performance. And I wish critically, she was lauded for this film. I wish he'd gotten more attention for this one, because this is acting. This is powerhouse acting. Is taking these feelings to this level and being able to portray them, especially in this really wild scenario, considering the house that she's in. And you have to admit the architecture is a little bit strange. And kind of like the kind of like off-kilter feeling of the architecture kind of throws everything constantly off balance, And I don't want to it's hard to talk about this one in particular because we don't want to give too much away. We don't want to spoil too much. But when you're distracted from the things that are around you because you're preoccupied with your grief and your isolation and your trauma, you can miss the things that are around you. You begin filling in the blanks, which is what I did. I experienced that myself with my father. And she does the same thing in this, where she wants it to be a particular way, but doesn't find it until almost too late that it is something else entirely. And that's the difficulty in that, is because they allow us to survive. These feelings allow us to survive, but ultimately can be our greatest weakness because we become heightened to other things and blind to other things. And sometimes blind to the dangers around us. We wind up blundering into them, or we try to make them into something that they are not. And they allow us to be open to deception and open to lies that are around us. Or they make us more heightened to these things. We see things more clearly. It is a wild, wild emotional ride. And definitely, I say, will hit people in a real deep place.
It's going to hit people in a different place depending on what they've gone through, which is good. That's good. That's good writing.
Absolutely.
Well, and it's something we had briefly discussed before is, so the office I'm in used to be my dad's. He passed away almost 4 years ago. And we moved from Arizona to North Carolina because my mom was alone in the house. Thank God we got here before COVID, or she would have been in isolation by herself. But we moved here. Everything past the screen and the camera, that side's my dad's workshop. And I went through his office and his tools, and he didn't take care of a lot of stuff last year. And I had to sort them and, take the rust off and everything. And they were going through these artifacts of his life. And without mentioning what they are, that is what she does in this movie too, is she's going back through these physical objects that they're, like you said, his death was unexpected. Suicide's always unexpected, but a lot of times there's a history of mental issues. You may be anything from all the way up to nursing them through depression, down to some people just joke about suicide, and they're not joking all that much, just their way of slipping it in. But there was no sign with him, and he just did it. And she is going back through and unraveling layers of his life that she knew nothing about. And it's like discovering a completely new person. And we do that with almost anyone that dies. We did that when my father passed away. When other relatives passed away, we would have wakes. And the time afterward where we would go eat lunch together was the biggest time, because it's when people start telling stories that nobody else heard, and it's filling in the details. And this one, heightens that, because it turns out he is a completely different person than she understood. I should say, in addition to who she knew. So it really emphasizes that journey that most of us take in order to find closure after we lose somebody.
Right.
That's all we're ever seeking is closure.
Yeah.
All right. No, go ahead.
No, I was saying the power lies in really lies in this film is both its atmospheric presentation, how the house is shot, how outside in the woods is shot, Beth's journey as we travel with her to uncover the mystery as to, like, you know, what plagued her husband and what was going on in his life and this whole secret life that he had. The sound editing and the minimalistic special effects, because virtually everything is, except for, you know, when you have those moments where it appears to be like a silhouette or like a profile of something that's there, but it's not really there. It's kind of taking advantage of the environment to kind of like manifest itself. When in that respect, it really, really it sells a really poignant and terribly haunting story. So strongly recommend anybody gets a chance to check this one out. We did watch it over in the Discord, and I'm probably thinking about showing it again. I've been so fucking busy lately, I haven't been able to show much in the Discord. We watched the entire Stranger Things marathon. We marathoned that a few weeks ago, because I was like, I hadn't shown anything, so we're going to watch all of Stranger Things and all of season 4. We did all that, but I need to get in there and show some more movies. I'll probably show this one again, because this one is a real chain rattler.
I put it in the top 10 for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I will say, without spoiling the ending, if you're a person that needs every single answer and everything finitely boxed in, it might not be the movie for you. But I think they did a brilliant job by not trying to outline every single edge of it. And that's why it sits with you after it's done. You just kind of let the credits roll, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, it's exactly. Yeah, it's like,
Absolutely.
Yep, exactly. All right, well, I'm going to ask the audience, trauma horror. Is that something that should be touched? Everybody has their own different kind of trauma. Everybody's been through something. It's something that I've learned getting a little older is, you know, your situation might be unique to you, but it's not special to the world. Everybody has been through some sort of trauma, and if you haven't, you are one of the few. Is trauma horror something that you can keep touching on and still resonate with a wide audience? It's kind of my question, because it is so individualized. You know, you can meet somebody that's been through family suicides, family deaths, people close to you dying unexpectedly. That's kind of generic, but each specific situation is very, very individual to you. So yes or no? Let us know in the comments down below. Or weekinhorror@gmail.com.
McKenna Mitchell says, trauma horror, in my opinion, is king.
I would have to agree.
Joshua Lee says, yes. Absolutely. Yeah. And for no last name says, trauma, fertile fields for horror to explore. Absolutely. It's so subjective and so individualized, yet so ubiquitous. We all deal with it in some respect. And so it speaks to all of us on different levels, which allows for a more, I would say, immersive experience, because we all deal with it on some level. Such an amazing film. And I just want to say this. As we've been doing the show, we got a new patron.
Nuh-uh.
We did. I would like to welcome, I would like to welcome I Heart Dogs is our newest patron who has joined the Fanatic tier. So thank you so much, I Heart Dogs. As a matter of fact,
listen, hey, in that respect, you asked a question, is this a mindfuck movie? It is, but not in the generic aspect of mindfuck movies. It's a mindfuck movie, but also it weighs really heavy on you the whole time.
Yes.
Yeah, it's probably not the best right in the wake of something traumatic happening to you. Most trauma movies aren't, but after you've had a little bit of time to process, I think they can be helpful ultimately in letting you explore it, because you got to face it down to get past it. It's one of those things that the only way around is through.
The only way out is through. Yeah, it was just, damn, you stole the words right out of my mouth. So thank you so much, I Heart Dogs. You'll see your name down there in the banner coming across. We appreciate it. Thank you for the support. We do appreciate it. All right, Tony Regime says there are so many types of trauma and so many ways it can affect people that it can go anywhere. It could be argued that Grace has aspects of trauma horror. It absolutely does.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely does. All right. Well, I think it is about that time. I think it's trivia time.
Let's lighten it up and give some shit away, huh?
Let's give some shit away.
Appreciate.
All right. So, tonight's trivia question. And unfortunately, we are not giving away another 150th episode pint glass or coffee mug. Those were relegated to the last
one of those.
And but we want to thank everybody who picked one of those up from the shop. They were here for a limited amount of time to celebrate 150th episode. So thank you all so much for those who managed to grab one of those. But we are giving away and I haven't given one of these away in a minute. We're going to give away an official Season 3 t-shirt. So an official Season 3 t-shirt because this will blow your mind. We're closing in on wrapping up Season 3.
That's insane.
Those are no good. They're missing the most important person.
Fucking crazy. Fucking crazy. Oh, Rodin last name says even mind games was trauma. For the audience. Oh, McKenna Mitchell says, hey, I like shit. Absolutely. And we have some great shit that we give away
fingers ready.
every week. So get those Google fingers ready. So we are giving away an official Season 3 Week in Horror t-shirt with the Season 3 artwork that features all of us cast members as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 cover in the Breakfast Club style. So we're giving away one of those. And of course, if you are the first person in the live chat to get this answer correctly, you will win an official Week in Horror Season 3 t-shirt. So, the trivia question is, what Spanish horror film did Mind Games attempt but fail to emulate? What Spanish horror film did Mind Games attempt but fail to emulate?
I've got live chat up.
I pulled it up on mine as well. So, awesome. So, let us know that if first one in the live chat with that answer. So, what Spanish horror film did Mind Games attempt but fail to emulate?
Ooh, banged out. Rodin, no last name.
Rodin, no last name.
Holy shit, that was quick. All right. Damn, Rodin, no last name.
Rodin, no last name. Google's Mind Games based on go.
And the answer is, yes, I saw that. The answer is Time Crimes.
Time Crimes.
Time Crimes was a 2007 Spanish horror film that follows a guy trying to eliminate his time variant double, his doubles, in order to try and fix the causality loop that he has created. So there's a lot of murder and mayhem in that. You probably recognize it if you ever saw the cover. The guy's got like a pink scarf around, a pink deal wrapped around his head that to mask his identity. But congratulations, wrote it no last name. That is a Week in Horror official Season 3 shirt. We are going to shoot that over to you. Congratulations, wrote it no last name. For the second week in a row.
Yeah, there you go. Hey. Starting to get another Aaron Reese up in here.
He can't have my job. All right. And that will bring another episode of Week in Horror to a close. Thank you all so much for listening, and we truly hope you enjoyed the show. Join us next week when we look back at the legendary Drop Ball, the Island of Dr. Moreau, the ghost hunting horror Camp Coldbrook, the terrifying body horror remake Rabid, and the adaptation of Stephen King's Needful Things. A massive shout out to all of our amazing patrons who continue to help us make Week in Horror the incredible success it has become. Thank you all so very much. Joshua Olsen does all our amazing artwork for the show, and his designs are incredible. Hit his store up at www.badsamurai.store. For more horror fun, be sure to follow us on all the socials for daily horror posts. Be sure to combat the evil algorithm by dropping a comment, liking, subscribing, and smashing the living fuck out of that bell. And lastly, if you love what we do here and you would like and are able to support our production, you can by joining and enjoying the tasty benefits of our many Patreon tiers. But if Patreon is not your favorite stalking method, you can always support us directly through our PayPal. Links to everything, including our Discord community where you can hang out with us, are in the description below. And remember, the goal is global horror domination, and we can't do it without you, our amazing audience. So pretty please, with a severed infested head of Clint Howard on top, go share the absolute fuck out of our little show. Thank you all for being the greatest audience a podcast could have, and good night.
And I'm Alex.
I was waiting for Aaron to say his name.
Yeah. Sorry, I fucked it up. It's all right. I'm Aaron.
And I'm JL.
Oh, fuck.
Oh,
it's only my second time. I'm still almost a virgin.
You
we'll
knocked it out of
see
the
you
park,
next
man.
week. And as always, stay scared.